Hello everyone. In this video, we will talk about or we will see in detail of hippocampus, its organization, how it is involved in memory, what are types of memory, how cortex also is involved in the memory. So, if we see hippocampus located where in the brain hippocampus is located, so it is majorly located in the temporal lobe. So, and its major role is in learning and memory. So, in broader way, we will see what are the brain areas, major brain areas. So, if we see it here in the figure, one is prefrontal cortex, which is major large area. The other one is hypothalamus, then cerebellum, hippocampus, pituitary gland, amygdala, and brainstem. So here is one more figure where you can see the actual location of hippocampus. So the major red shaded area includes basal ganglia, and at last part of these basal ganglia hippocampus is located, and after that amygdala is located. Other areas includes behind the basal ganglia you can see thalamus, and below that you can see hypothalamus. So this is how you can remember it in a easier way. So the actual structure of hippocampus is called as hippocampus proper, and which is made up of 4 regions or subfields. These subfields are CA1, CA2, CA3 and CA4, which uses CA initials of cornu ammonis, which is earlier name of the hippocampus. So in the left lower figure you can see the areas which are like CA1, CA2, CA3 and CA4. So these are shaded in yellow color. Pink color shaded area is dentate gyrus, which can be denoted in the short form as a DG, which you can see in the right figure of the histopathological section of hippocampus. Green shaded area is subiculum, and last part of the hippocampus, which is called as entorhinal cortex. So how the memory transfer occurs is via first from the DG region, that is shaded with pink color. So it goes to CA3 and then CA1 and then onwards. So this is how the memory formation takes place. So what is trisynaptic circuit, or why it is called as trisynaptic circuits? So trisynaptic circuit is a neural circuit in the hippocampus. So that is 4 regions in the hippocampus proper which form a neural circuit, and which is made up of, the 4 regions are made up of 3 major cell groups, that is granular cells in dentate gyrus, that is DG region, then pyramidal cells in CA1 and CA3 neurons. So this is lower figure shows trisynaptic circuit where DG, CA1 and CA3 regions are shown, and the cells consist of these regions are granular cells and pyramidal cells respectively. So hippocampus is made up of different layers. So there are total 6 layers if you see it in the upper figure. So first to 6th layer. So major layers are layer 5 or 6, which is involved in the CA1 regions, layer 3, layer 2. So if you want to detail about these areas and their functions and what these layers are, you can text in the comment if you need to have more detailed explanation about this. So how hippocampus is involved in memory? Okay, so memories are not actually stored in the hippocampus for the long term. Instead, it is believed that the hippocampus acts as something of a shipping center. What it does is it takes an information, registers it and temporarily stores it before shipping it off to be filed and stored in long term memory. So in the right upper figure you can see that sensory information comes from various sensory organs like ear, eyes, nose, touch. So it that information is getting encoded in the hippocampus, and the memory consolidation is occurs from hippocampus to cerebral cortex. So from where this sensory information comes from the cerebral or cerebral cortex, it is from the frontal lobe particularly. So these and frontal lobe is also involved in memory. This is how hippocampus and frontal lobe together is involved in memory formation and consolidation. So what is the exact mechanism, how it happens? So there is very simple thing is involved, that is neurotransmitters and receptors. So if the more number of neurotransmitters are there and there will be more number of receptors, then that action or that particular strengthening of synapse will takes place, and this is how. So we generally see it if we memorize some things, some things that will be stored for long time, or we can remember these things because it is like we are repeating the activities. So that is how we need to repeat, give stimulus to about particular signal so that it will be strengthened. So memories are laid down in the form of strengthened connection between nerve cells in the cortex and the hippocampi. When a memory is created, levels of both neurotransmitters and receptors increase in the synapse between neurons involved. So at last, memory is formed by increasing the levels of neurotransmitters and the number of receptors. So this is how this concept is. So what is long term potential? This is in connection with the memory formation and receptors and neurotransmitters. The long term potential is a terminology which is used, or which means is persistent strengthening of synapses based on recent patterns of activities. So like this, if neurotransmitters are there, then more number of receptors will be there, and this is how that activation will takes place, and this potential long for the this membrane receptors will be potentiated for long time, and this is how you can memorize the things for the long term. So which are neurotransmitters which particularly involved in learning and memory? So there are various neurotransmitters like acetylcholine, dopamine, so serotonin, GABA, glutamate, but which has more prominent role in memory, or the which is prevalent in the memory or learning, that has not been cleared yet, but each has their own specific role. Like major neurotransmitters are considered in the memory and learning are dopamine, norepinephrine and serotonin, which together all three together acts in balancing the mood. So how norepinephrine majorly is involved in attention, then dopamine is involved in appetite, and serotonin in endurance. So if we see, if we have our healthy condition of our mind, means we have proper mood, proper food, proper sleep, everything is in balance, or favorable to our need, then we will have more concentrating ability. So what is required for memory formation is that we need to be alert, we need to be concentrating, and we need to be satisfied. So how this all three things will work? By using alertness by dopamine, concentration by norepinephrine, and satisfaction by using serotonin. So these three hormones plays a role, and this is how they are playing a role in memory. So what is the role of glutamate in memory? So if from the presynaptic left, glutamate is released in a small quantity, then what it does is, so first we will understand how glutamate acts. So glutamate acts on either AMDA or AMP NMDA receptors. So if there is less amount of glutamate, so it acts on a NMDA receptor, and but this NMDA receptor will be blocked by magnesium ion. So what will, and then that magnesium actually needs to be removed in order to activate more, so it requires more glutamate. If glutamate is not more, so then only less amount of sodium will come inside. So this is short term memory. And in second figure you can see, if more amount of glutamate is there, then magnesium will be released from the receptor and more sodium will be coming in. Along with that, calcium will also come inside. So what it will cause is, it will cause depolarization. So this is how long term memory will be created. So this is just a part at the synaptic level. So what is next? How this ions will play an important role further. So what these ions do is that these ions or further downstream signaling of this leads to synthesis of new receptors, or if the receptors are already there, then their transfer or relocation to the membrane. So this is how, or by using messenger RNA, new receptors will be synthesized which are transferred to the membrane. So this is how long term memory works. But in case of short term memory, so whatever the receptors are there existing, that only, or either post translational modifications, this is how the things works. Means we long term memory needs creation of new receptors. So how acetylcholine is involved in memory? It is also taking part in long term potentiation. So if acetylcholine is released, it ultimately causes depolarization and it increases memory. And acetylcholine triggers learning dependent synaptic plasticity of excitatory and inhibitory synapses, inducing electrophysiological diversity of excitatory and inhibitory synapses. So if you see before learning and after learning, what will happen? If acetylcholine is given, then AMPA mediated excitatory synapses will be increased and GABA mediated inhibitory synapses will also be working in a greater manner. So what are the types of memories? So depending on the duration for which the memory is stored or memory is there, so there are three major types of memory. That is, one is sensory memory, second one is short term memory, third one is long term memory. Sensory memory, which lasts for less than 1 second, short term memory lasts for less than 1 minute, and long term memory has life of lifetime. So short term memory is also called as working memory, and long term memory is called as lifetime memory. So what are sensory memories? So touch, then smell, then like taste, these are all sensory memories. So further, long term memory is divided into two types, that is explicit memory and implicit memory. If you are unconscious, but you can still do the procedural things, like if you know how to write, then if you are unconscious, then also you can write it or do certain activities. Even if you supposingly you know that you have something in your right side, suppose you need to keep the glass on the table, so you can do it in the unconscious state also, because you know the procedure how to do it, right? So this is called as implicit memory. So other is but in contrary, if you are conscious and then you need to which is also called as explicit memory, and if you are conscious, then you need to remember, or if somebody asks you to remember some events or facts, then you need to be conscious. So this is called as declarative memory. So like you need to remember what had happened that on that day. So you need to be conscious. You can't say this in the unconscious mind. So which is also divided into two types. One is episodic memory and second one is semantic memory. Episodic memory is all about experiences, past events, but semantic memory is about facts and concepts. Like for example, in episodic memory, so you can have your own experiences of your boss might be uh, uh, shouting on you like that. Or so semantic memory, which is about facts and concepts. Suppose somebody asks you the capital of something, then you must remember these things. So you need to be conscious to answer all these questions. So this is how the long term memory is. So other part we have seen till now, the hippocampus, which is involved in memory, what are neurotransmitters, receptors, and how long term memory or short term memory forms. So it was all about hippocampus. Second part is about cortex. So how cortex is involved in memory. So first of all, we will understand the layers of cortex. So there are six layers of cortex. Six layers of cortex, which so these layers are from inside, outside to inside. I have mentioned, like, so you can remember these layers in, like, first is molecular layer and sixth is fusiform or polymorphic cells. So second and third and fourth and fifth is like granular pyramidal, then again granular pyramidal. So we are seeing from outside to inside, so that will be external granular and external pyramidal. Likewise internal granular and internal pyramidal layers. So this is how you can remember this layers of the cerebral cortex. So in animal experiments, how the learning and memory tests are done in animals, suppose in rat, mice. So there are various tests available. I have just mentioned about passive avoidance test and Morris water maze test, which are used very commonly in laboratory animals. So Morris water maze test is mainly used for hippocampal dependent learning and memory. So there are four functional blocks of the brain. First block is basal ganglia, which is related to sensory motor integration. Second one is dorsal midbrain, posterior thalamus, amygdala, nucleus accumbens, and frontal cortex, which plays a role in fear initiated responses. Third one is cerebellum, anterior and ventromedial thalamus, and parietal cortex, which has somatosensory functions. And fourth one is occipital cortex, hippocampal complex, and mammillary bodies, which are involved with cognitive and mapping. So why I am saying this, if you are a researcher or preclinical studies you need to perform in the animals related to memory or learning, which are mainly dementia like conditions, like in Alzheimer's model or anything. So and you need to have more detailed explanation about these procedures, then we can have this tutorial in the separate video. So these are other memory tasks or which you can perform in the animals, like delayed match to place water maze, to object novel object recognition, object location memory task, modified Barnes maze test, Weill-Maze spontaneous alteration test, fear conditioning, etc. So there is a lot further to learn depending on your need. So thank you.